Matuszak.
And I'm Mollie Bartelt.
And welcome to this episode of Photo Estate News by Pixologie. I'd like to start off this time by talking about another interesting fact in the news. And you may have heard about MyHeritage, which is well known for their DNA testing. They are now offering MyHeritage in color, where they will colorize one of your black and white photos, or all of them if you have a membership to their site. If you sign up for their just free sign up, they'll go ahead and do a photo for you, and that's what I did. And it's an interesting concept, so take a look at it and tell me what you think. They're using multiple different algorithms to try and restore colors that may have been appropriate to the time. I'm not quite sure how they figure all of that out, but they've got millions and millions of photos at their disposal to do this. Now, if you have an old black and white photo, unless it has the details on the back when people would have them hand tinted, how do you know what color someone's eyes are? Or the dress, or the walls, or any of those pieces. So
Didn't it look like that dress had a pattern put onto it almost? Like the dress became a little bit different of a texture looking. It's very interesting.
So the faces look beautiful. I have to say the skin tones are very realistic. But I think that this is one of those things where genealogists love to have the original print, because in today's world, we can make anything look like anything. So check it out. It's MyHeritage in color, and feel free to leave some comments about what you think, and would you want to colorize all your old photos? I think it's fun to try, but for me personally, there's something special about an old black and white.
It's true.
So you be the judge, and that's just something interesting that's in the news in the photography and the photo world. So Mollie, what are you going to tell us about?
Well, it's always good to touch upon the idea of photo estates. And last week we gave a list of 4 steps to get you started on creating a photo estate. Now, sometimes people are a little overwhelmed by that, and we want to put all of that aside and give you reasons to think past the job of organizing the photos to the feelings that your family are going to have when they see that finished, organized project. And so we just started talking about, what do photo estates do? So we have found that people, one of our clients, we've mentioned before, she said her photo estate restored her life. Restoring a life. Think about your aunts and your uncles, or other grandparents. They have forgotten a lot of what they did in the 50s and 60s and 70s. I mean, I forget what we did last week.
Yes.
So when they see these pictures, memories are restored and stories are told. So photo estates restore. Photo estates tell the stories from long past that people haven't thought about in decades. And photo estates connect generations. Clearly, when you're labeling who's who from the past, the kids that may not even have been born into your family will now know who their ancestors were. So that's an amazing thing that a photo estate does. And that's just a few of the reasons why we think people should spend a little time working on a photo estate. And we continue to offer resources. If you want to go to our YouTube channel, we have a series and we have a book, and we're here to answer your questions. We are always looking for people to ask us questions that we might not have thought of to answer. So leave a comment below or a question, and we'll address that in a future episode of the Photo Estate News. It is Anne's turn to talk about an unusual find.
Thanks, Mollie. This one was one I was so excited about. And when you look at it, you're going to see kind of a plain photo. I mean, it's an old picture, kind of faded, in front of a house, a bunch of people dressed in black. And okay, great, but it doesn't really get you excited, right? So what does is what we do with all of these old photos. All of us do it, and it's one of the things we've loved being able to do, even with digital pictures, is the idea of being able to turn them over. When I turn this one over, there is a treasure trove of information. And this belongs to one of our clients who has graciously allowed us to share it with you. If you are a family historian, a genealogist, you thought you were going to turn it over and find out who the people were on the front and see who your family member was that was in this picture that you ended up inheriting it. Instead, you have a whole genealogy of information, and the top tells about the photo itself, and then the rest talks about this family history, who married who and where they moved, and so-and-so's deceased and his wife remarried. And one was really sad. In Washington, his wife burned to death in a rubbish fire which caught her skirt on fire, and she died a terrible death. What a shocking thing to find in your family history, but now to know the story about this relative and why he was a widower and maybe what happened next, you have a better understanding. So when you can find details like this, it's both unusual and an absolute treasure.
Is there a date on that? It's got to be early 1900s, I would think. Okay.
Yeah, because the picture is close to a church that no longer exists, and I think that if we did some of the research on it, we would be able to narrow it down pretty well.
It's actually unusual to see a photo like this enlarged like that. We don't come across these too often.
What was interesting is the final relative on here. It says he was very wealthy and always helped out financially, but they didn't know that he was very wealthy. They just thought he was very kind. And it wasn't until his death that they found out that he was in fact wealthy as well. So check out your family photos, flip them over, and see what kind of unusual finds or treasure troves you might have hiding in your basement or attic or under the bed.
Oh, wow.
So Mollie, what's our feature story this week?
We had one gentleman, Mike, who brought his family reels of film. He had, I believe over 100 reels of the 3-inch size, and we had them digitized. And when he was able to look at the videos on the computer, you can see in the picture here, he was blown away. One movie that we watched together when his project was ready included him as a little boy performing a Shanana episode in front of an audience that included his grandparents. Now, our client, Mike, is in his 60s, and he hasn't seen his grandparents for decades, and he was so moved, and he saw his brothers in there and his grandparents, and he's like, I cannot wait to show the rest of the family. They're just gonna love it. So that's our featured story for this week.
It's so neat. So much of what we talk about, and we're obviously all about photos, and I love photos, clearly, or we wouldn't do this, but movies bring people back to life. And you, if you were a certain age watching this, when Mollie said Shanana, did you not immediately hear that music?
I think I was
instant.
like 6 when I became aware of it, so.
I'm not even going to address that, but it just brings it to life. And what a really cool part of a photo estate is these extra pieces and other memorabilia that sometimes people go, oh, I'm not going to bother with that. And very rarely do we ever have someone sorry they did, because it means so much.
Yeah. So next, Anne is going to talk about something from the web. Something that
interesting. So we always find these interesting things going on in the web, and on one of the many news resources that I read through during the day, I read this great article from Popular Science magazine that I was just fascinated by the pictures. And this photographer named Eric Miola, he has done photography chasing some of the most dramatic storms of the Midwest. So I went back through and looked at some of my pictures, and And here's one of my big storm pictures. I thought it was amazing.
It is.
I was in a car with my children coming home, and there were tornadoes, and it was very, very, it felt like the clouds were going to land on our car. And your picture's kind of fun.
Well, yep, we were out walking. We've been having a lot of storms lately here in the Midwest, and my daughter and I were out walking and trying to get those 10,000 steps in before the rain fell. I love this picture. But
And then there's Eric's. And did I mention he's a professional photographer? So, and he does chase these storms. He goes just to take the pictures of it. He's not into all the other part of it, but check some of these out. If you want to look him up, Eric Miola, he took some dramatic photos. And while we ooh and ah over the photos, just keep in mind that with those experiences tends to come a lot of rain and a lot of flooded basements and some tornadoes that blow photos from here to, whatever the next city is. So again, not that it's all about bringing it back to what we do, but this is about preserving that photo estate before you go storm chasing.
very true.
You have an exciting announcement to close us out today.
Yes, I do. So a couple weeks ago, we announced a contest for a canvas print, and that was for people who submitted their 4th of July photos. And the winner of our contest is Betty String, who's just been a great client and friend for us, and here's her picture. So thank you for everybody who participated in that. I think that is about it for the Photo Estate News today. We definitely encourage you to submit ideas, and we'll put our information up at the end here. If you want us to talk about something, if you have an interesting find, we would love to talk about that and share it with our viewers as well. So, I don't know, can you think of anything else, Ann?
I think we're good. We've got a lot of fun pictures for them to take a look at, and we look forward to your feedback. So until the next episode, I'm Ann Matuszak.
And I'm Mollie Bartelt.
Thanks for tuning in. Follow the rest of our videos on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.